Hello everybody, welcome back to the Schimmel Shop. I'm Chad Schimmel, and today we're going to make a really simple desk tool or pencil holder. So to start this pencil holder, I'm actually going to use a bunch of scrap materials. I've got all these different pieces of scrap plywood and then this larger piece which I miscut on another project. So rather than just waste it, it's a nice piece of birch ply. I'm going to actually use this for the top and bottom and maybe even the sides, whatever I can get out of it. And then if I need to, I've got some thinner stuff here. So I've got plenty of materials to work with, and I'm going to use that up. Another thing I'm going to use, if you've seen my video where I did the Kaizen foam in my toolbox drawers, I've got extra pieces of this foam. And this stuff is awesome. It holds tools really well, but I'm actually going to drill it and use it for the inside of the box. So let's get started.
So the first thing I do is measure out my materials. These are scraps, so I want to make sure I maximize my efforts. I then take it over the table saw, make a couple rips to make the top and the bottom. I'm using the thicker plywood here, so that way it's a little sturdier on the top and the bottom. Once I've done this, I'll take them over to the miter saw. I'm going to square up one end, and then once that's done I can flip it and mark it with my long nose pliers to the right length, and then trim that. This is important to make sure that everything's square so when I assemble it's all good. I'm going to measure out the foam using two pieces. I want to make sure I get the right thickness, and by doing that I can then cut the right size of the walls that are going to be on the box. And there again I'm just using the scrap plywood for it and ripping it down the middle. Once I've done that, I'm going to use the table saw to cut a simple end dado on this, and it'll give it a little more strength, but it's just easier to assemble that way. And I'm just making a few different passes here to get the right thickness for the plywood. I'm using 3/8 and 1/4, and it's as simple as that. Next I'm going to start assembling. I'm going to assemble the walls using these strips of plywood that were already cut. In hindsight, I should have just cut extra walls and doubled up the sides to give it more thickness. I figured that being so thin it would be tough to pin nail, so I went ahead and glued up these strips. It worked out in the end, but I could have made it easier on myself just making extra sides. These pin nails were a little long, so I went ahead and just trimmed off a little bit that was sticking out. No big deal. Gluing up the other one and just finishing with a couple pin nails to let the glue dry. Once these walls were done, I could assemble the box frame. I glued up the ends and put it into the dado on the very end. I only did one side at first, that way I could fit the foam well without having to try to squeeze it in. There again, I'm just pin nailing it to let the glue dry. This way I didn't have to wait for any clamping. So now I measured the size of where the foam would go. Went to the bandsaw, and the foam on the bandsaw, it cuts literally like foam through a bandsaw. Sorry, I had to make a little chuckle. But anyways, it cuts really awesome and straight, and it's definitely the way to go. That being done, I went ahead and fit it to make sure it worked. It fit like a glove, and now I can glue up and nail the end cap for the other end here. I simply just glued it and tacked a few nails on, and even at this point I could tell this thing was pretty sturdy for what it was meant for. It was definitely overbuilt, but that's okay. I'm just adding a couple pin nails to hold it in place while the glue dries, and on the other end just a couple. Now I can put the top on. I just put a layer of glue around the edge. This would be enough to hold it, but there again I didn't want to wait and let it be sitting clamps overnight, so I just went ahead and tacked it with some pins. I just eyeballed this because it wasn't that important or crucial that it was 100%, although it came out pretty darn close to perfectly centered, having that little lip on each end. So now I tack up the other side, and the box is more or less complete. And at this point, this thing is feels solid as a rock, and having that foam in there, it was really dense sounding when I tapped on it. I used my long nose marker again and my Forstner bit to kind of lay out a couple of the larger holes, and then I went to the drill press. The one thing I would do different is I would definitely cut those holes first, because I had to dig them out. Dig out the wood chips, I should say. Here I'm applying a quick little Schimmel logo just for fun. And if you want to see how I do this in a complete video, I'm going to go ahead and post that as well today. But it's a really cool way, and it's super simple to add a logo, or even if you want to do a whole picture on wood. It's a really cool process, and it's super easy, as you can see. Normally I have to wait overnight, but a couple hours in the Arizona sun today and it was dry. So just rubbing off the paper on this, and it's pretty much done at this point. I did spray a light clear coat over the whole box to protect it, but it didn't take a whole lot.
So there you have it. The box is finished. It's a very simple utility. I didn't do a lot of sanding, or I should say I didn't do any sanding on this, because I'm just using this in the shop. It's not going, you know, in an office or even in the home. I'm just going to use it to stick my tools in and know where they're at the end of the day. If you were interested in this, I'm going to go ahead and post a video on how I do this image transfer. It's really cool. Anything you can print on your computer, you can transfer to wood. So it can be something like this, or it could be a picture, whatever. Also, if you saw me in the video using my long nose marker, it's something I use constantly in the shop every day. Paul at FastCap sent me a few of these to give away. If you want to win, just put a comment below about it, and maybe even hit up FastCap. I'll put their YouTube channel link in the description. And just show support for those that support us. And I'll pick a winner in a day or two, and I'll mail them to you. So thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe, and please give it a thumbs up.